Humans spend an incredible amount of time worrying about what other people think of them, which is unfortunate. Because most people are far too busy worrying about themselves. Maybe you tripped over absolutely nothing in public. Maybe you accidentally called your teacher Mom. Maybe you sent a text, stared at it for 20 minutes, deleted it, rewrote it, deleted it again, rewrote it a third time, sent it, and then immediately wanted to move to another country. Whatever it was, there's a good chance you still remember it. And there's also a good chance nobody else does. Humans have this strange habit of believing they're being watched. Not in a government surveillance tinfoil hat kind of way. Although, to be fair, some of you are making a compelling case for that. I mean, socially, we walk into a room and assume everyone notices us. We make a mistake and assume everyone remembers it. We say something awkward and assume everyone is replaying it later. In psychology, this is called the spotlight effect, which is the human tendency to believe you're standing under a giant spotlight, when in reality, everyone else is standing under their own. It's basically main character syndrome, except nobody bought tickets. And before you think you're immune to this, let me ask you something. Have you ever waved at someone and then realized they weren't waving at you? Because if you have, congratulations. Your brain has just unlocked a premium embarrassment memory, one that will randomly haunt you at 2:17 a.m. for the next decade. Meanwhile, the other person forgot it happened before they reached the next aisle. Humans are fascinating. A species capable of building skyscrapers, splitting atoms, and sending robots to Mars. Yet one awkward interaction is enough to emotionally damage us until 2037. So why does this happen? Why do humans constantly feel like everybody's watching them? Well, scientists actually tested this, and the results were kind of hilarious. In one famous experiment, researchers made university students wear an embarrassing t-shirt into a room full of strangers. Now, before we continue, I should mention this study happened in the early 2000s. So the shirt featured a musician named Barry Manilow. If you're too young to know who that is, imagine walking into school wearing a giant shirt that says, "I moderate Facebook comment sections." It's the same energy. The students wearing the shirt predicted that around half the room would notice them, which honestly seems reasonable. If you're forced to wear something embarrassing, it certainly feels like everyone is looking at you. But when researchers asked the people in the room afterward, only a small fraction had noticed. Not because they were being polite, they genuinely didn't see it. Because they were busy thinking about themselves, their own appearance, their own awkwardness, their own imaginary spotlight. And that's the funny thing about humans. Everyone thinks they're being judged, which means nobody has time to judge anyone else. It's like showing up to a job interview and discovering every applicant is secretly having a panic attack. Nobody's evaluating each other. You're all just trying to survive. But this raises an interesting question. If people aren't actually paying that much attention to us, why does it feel like they are? For that, we need to travel back a few thousand years. Back when humans lived in tribes. Back before smartphones. Before social media. Before LinkedIn users started posting things like, "Yesterday, my dog taught me an important lesson about leadership." For most of human history, social acceptance wasn't just nice. It was survival. If your tribe liked you, great. You got food, protection, community. If your tribe rejected you, that was considerably less ideal. So your brain evolved to constantly monitor your social standing. What do they think of me? Do they like me? Did I do something wrong? Am I about to get thrown into the wilderness? The problem is that your brain is still running the same software. The tribe disappeared, but the operating system stayed. So now instead of worrying about exile, you worry about whether that email sounded weird. Instead of wondering if you'll survive winter, you wonder if people noticed you wore the same outfit twice. Ancient software, modern problems, and unfortunately, the internet didn't exactly help. Humans invented social media, then acted surprised when everyone became self-conscious. Now we're exposed to hundreds, sometimes thousands of people every day. Perfect faces, perfect holidays, perfect careers, perfect lives. Or at least carefully edited versions of them. And when you spend enough time looking at everybody else's highlight reel, it's easy to start imagining they're paying attention to yours. But the spotlight effect doesn't just make us think people notice us. It makes us think people are judging us too. And humans are surprisingly creative when it comes to inventing criticism that doesn't exist. You walk into a gym for the first time. Your brain says, "Everyone knows I have no idea what I'm doing." Reality? Everyone else is trying to remember whether they're on set 3 or set 4. You post something online. Your brain says, "What if everyone thinks this is stupid?" Reality? Most people scrolled past it while eating cereal. You wear the same outfit twice in 1 week. Your brain says, "They've definitely noticed." Reality? Most people couldn't accurately describe what you were wearing 5 minutes ago. And yet somehow we act as if we're constantly being evaluated. Like every room contains a secret panel of judges, scoring our conversations, our appearance, our life choices. Meanwhile, the actual people in the room are wondering things like, "Did I leave the oven on? Why did I say that weird thing yesterday?" And, "Is it socially acceptable to have a third coffee?" Humans spend so much time worrying about being judged that we rarely stop to ask an important question. What exactly are these people judging us for? Because when you really think about it, most of the things we're afraid of are completely normal. Making mistakes, looking nervous, being awkward, not knowing something. Those aren't unusual human experiences. Those are just human experiences. In fact, the traits we worry about most are often the same traits that make us relatable. Nobody trusts the person who never makes mistakes. Nobody relates to the person who's perfect all the time. The people we tend to like are usually the people who feel human. Which is ironic, because while we're trying desperately to hide every flaw, those flaws are often the very things that make other people comfortable around us. But here's the thing. Most people aren't looking at your life. They're looking at their own. The person you're worried about impressing? They're worried about impressing somebody else. Who is worried about impressing somebody else? Who is worried about impressing somebody else? It's insecurity all the way down. An infinite chain of humans wondering if they're being judged. Which would be tragic. If it wasn't also kind of funny. Because once you realize this, something strange happens. The spotlight starts to shrink. You stop overthinking every conversation. You stop treating every mistake like a historical event. You stop assuming everybody remembers that embarrassing thing you did 3 years ago. Because they don't. In fact, think about the last truly embarrassing thing somebody else did. Can you remember one? Probably not. And if you can, you probably can't remember many. Because your brain was busy recording your own life, just like theirs was. And honestly, that's good news. It means you can try things. You can be awkward. You can fail. You can say the wrong thing occasionally. You can embarrass yourself, because that's what being human looks like. Nobody becomes confident first and then starts living. They start living first. Then eventually realize nobody was watching as closely as they thought. The mistake you're still replaying, most people forgot it happened. The thing you're embarrassed about, most people never noticed. The spotlight you've been standing under? It was never as bright as you imagined. And that's one of the most freeing discoveries a human can make. Because the moment you realize nobody is thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are, you become free to think a little less about yourself too, and a little more about actually living. Anyway, I'm Oddy. If you enjoyed this investigation, consider subscribing. My research into human behavior is entirely self-funded, which sounds professional until you realize I don't have funding.